Welcome back, everyone. Before we dive in, be sure to drop your thoughts, feelings, and lessons in the comments below. Like the video and subscribe so you never miss stories like this. Let's get into it. The cruel thing she did was change the locks, dump my clothes on the porch in trash bags, and force me out of the home like I was a stranger. Then file for divorce the next morning and call me insecure for asking why. Here's how it happened. It started with small questions I asked in private. Quiet questions that shouldn't have threatened anyone who was telling the truth. But every question I asked became a weapon she used to shame me, until the only place left to ask one was in court. My name is Daniel Brooks, and for most of my marriage, I believed love meant giving more than you received without keeping score. Leah and I met in Washington, D.C. at a friend's engagement party. She wore a cream blazer and spoke with an easy confidence that made people lean in. I was steady, not flashy, an operations supervisor for a medical supply company, more comfortable fixing problems than talking about myself. Leah told me I made her feel safe. I held on to that sentence for years. When we got married, we moved to Silver Spring, Maryland, into a townhome near a park with a worn basketball court and a weekend farmer's market. We painted the kitchen ourselves. We argued over curtain colors, made up over late-night takeout, and promised each other we would never embarrass one another the way we'd seen other couples do. Leah said she wanted a life that looked calm from the outside and felt calm on the inside. I believed her. Leah always had ambition, but it sharpened after she left her corporate job. She started talking about building something that couldn't be taken away. She wanted a logistics consulting company, helping small businesses streamline shipping and inventory. She called it the Lumen Route. The name sounded hopeful, like a light through fog. She made pitch decks at the dining table, turned our guest room into an office, and filled whiteboards with arrows and numbers. I admired her drive and tried to support it without hovering. When she needed startup money, she came to me softly at first. "It's just a loan, Daniel. Temporary. It'll help me get the first contracts." I asked what the terms were, what the payment schedule looked like, who was responsible if the business didn't perform right away. She laughed light dismissive and touched my cheek like I was a nervous child. "You worry too much. You're so insecure about money." That word, insecure, became her favorite way to shut me down. If I asked about her late nights in the office, I was insecure. If I asked why she needed my tax returns again, I was insecure. If I asked why a bank letter came to the house addressed to both of us when she said the business was separate, I was insecure. She didn't yell at first. She smiled. She made it sound like she was doing me a favor by tolerating my concerns. Her mother, Naomi, moved through our home like she owned it. Naomi lived in Upper Marlboro, but visited constantly, always with opinions and always with a tone that made those opinions feel like judgments. Naomi never called me Daniel. She called me son, the way people do when they want authority without closeness. If Leah spoke sharply to me, Naomi would stare at my face as if measuring whether I deserved it. The first time I felt real fear in my marriage, it wasn't because of a screaming fight. It was a Tuesday night when Leah came home smelling like hotel soap and fresh linen. I noticed because the scent didn't belong in our house. I asked where she'd been. She didn't pause. "Work. I told you I had meetings." Her eyes didn't blink. When I asked why she smelled like a hotel, she smirked. "Because I'm a grown woman who leaves the house, Daniel." I started tracking my questions in my head because something about our conversations kept twisting. I would ask one thing, and she would accuse me of another. "Where were you?" became, "Why are you controlling me?" "Can we look at the finances together?" became, "Why are you insecure about my success?" Every conversation ended with me apologizing for asking in the first place, even when my question was reasonable. I hated how quickly I started doubting my own instincts. Around that time, the bank app started sending alerts late at night. Not every night, just enough to feel like a pattern. I saw charges for office supplies, ride shares, and meals that didn't match the story of Leah working from home. I asked her about it once while we were brushing our teeth. She spit, wiped her mouth, and said, "If you monitored your own life the way you monitor mine, you'd be doing better." I tried to be calm. I tried to be the man I believed I was, steady, patient, supportive. I suggested counseling. Leah laughed like counseling was for people who failed at life. I'm not sitting on a couch so a stranger can validate your insecurities, she said. Then she added, casually, honestly, Daniel, you should be grateful I'm still here. A lot of women would have left. I called my cousin Eli in Baltimore one evening from my car, parked down the street, so Leah wouldn't hear. Eli listened without interrupting, then said quietly, you sound like you're living with someone who doesn't want to be questioned. Eli didn't tell me what to do. He didn't feed my anger. He just asked, do you have your documents? Your records? That question landed differently than Leah's insults. It felt like a lifeline. The next week, a certified letter arrived. Leah snatched it before I could open it. She tore it open in the kitchen, and I saw the top line, notice of guarantor. She folded the paper quickly and slid it into her bag, then looked at me like I'd invaded her privacy by noticing. I asked what it was. She said, it's nothing. Stop staring. When I asked why it said guarantor, her mouth tightened. Because businesses have paperwork. You wouldn't understand. I started checking our shared mailbox myself. I didn't want to, but I felt like my life was moving without my consent. I found a second letter from the bank, this one addressed to Daniel Brooks and Leah Brooks. My stomach dropped. I carried it inside and placed it on the table like evidence, not accusation. Leah glanced at it and didn't even pretend surprise. So, she said, what are you going to do? Interrogate me. That night, she slept facing away from me, phone glowing under the blanket. When I shifted, she snapped, stop moving. You're doing it on purpose. I lay there staring at the ceiling while the silence pressed down. It hit me that she didn't just dislike my questions. She disliked the idea that I had the right to ask them. And that wasn't a marriage. It was a hostage situation dressed up as a partnership. The humiliation came soon after, and it came fast. On a Friday afternoon, I left work early to pick up groceries. I texted Leah that I was heading home. She replied with one word, okay. When I pulled into her driveway, I saw black trash bags on the porch like a grim welcome. At first, I thought the neighborhood had mistaken our house for pickup day. Then I saw my shoes, my work boots, my dress shoes stuffed into the top bag. I tried the keypad lock. The code didn't work. I tried my key. The deadbolt had been changed. My chest tightened. I knocked, then rang the bell, then knocked again. Behind the blinds, a shadow moved. Leah didn't open the door. My phone buzzed. A message from Leah, your stuff is outside. Don't make a scene. Another message came right behind it, from Naomi, a real man doesn't beg. The neighbor's door stayed closed, but I felt eyes anyway. Curtains shifting, silence sharpening. My face burned. I called Leah, straight to voicemail. I texted, Leah, open the door. What is this? She replied, you're insecure and exhausting. I need peace. Find somewhere else. I stood there holding a trash bag of my own clothes, like the life I'd built could be reduced to plastic and knots. I ended up in a cheap motel off the highway near Laurel, sitting on the edge of a stiff bed, staring at the wall. My hands shook, not from rage, but from shock. It's a strange thing to realize someone can throw you away without raising their voice. Leah had always been good at making cruelty look calm. It made it harder to explain to anyone else. If she had screamed, people would believe she was wrong. But Leah didn't scream. She simply erased me. The next morning, I got served divorce papers. Leah filed first. She claimed I was controlling, emotionally unstable, and harassing her with constant questioning. She requested exclusive use of the home. She stated her business was separate property and that I had no stake in it. The language was clean and formal, like a stranger wrote it, but I could hear Leah's voice in every accusation. There was no mention of the locks, the trash bags, the humiliation. Just a neat story where I was the problem. I called my manager and took personal leave. I told him I had a family emergency. He didn't pry, but his eyes held concern. I drove to Baltimore and sat in Eli's kitchen, hands wrapped around a mug of coffee I couldn't taste. Eli's apartment was small, but felt safe. He asked me what I needed. I said, I need my life back. He nodded once and said, then we start with facts. Over the next week, I realized how much of my life Leah controlled simply by keeping me off balance. My belongings were in bags. My marriage was being rewritten on paper. My home was locked. My name, my reputation, my sanity, Everything felt like it was slipping. I tried to see our bank accounts, but Leah had removed my access to the budgeting app we used. She had changed passwords. The more she shut doors, the more I understood she wasn't leaving me. She was taking something. I went back to Silver Spring one afternoon while Leah was at work. I sat in my car across the street, like a stranger surveilling my own home. It broke something inside me. I watched Naomi arrive with a spare key. Naomi walked in like she belonged there. 20 minutes later, a man I didn't recognize pulled up, tall, well-dressed, confident. He carried a laptop bag. He didn't knock. He used the keypad code and walked right in. My mouth went dry. I took a photo of the license plate. Not to be dramatic, just to anchor reality. Later, Eli ran the plate through a contact he knew at a repair shop who sometimes helped with basic lookups. The name came back, Aaron Hale. A quick search showed Aaron was listed on a professional networking site as strategic growth partner at LumenRoute. Leah had told me she worked alone. When I confronted Leah by text, careful, not threatening, she didn't deny Aaron. She mocked me. You're stalking now? Wow. Insecure and creepy. Exactly what I said. I asked, is he why you changed the locks? She replied, I changed the locks because you don't get to question me anymore. That was the moment I stopped trying to win her kindness. I understood she didn't want resolution. She wanted silence. Eli pushed me to get a lawyer, not to fight, but to protect myself. I found Rachel Stein, a family law attorney in Rockville with a calm voice and eyes that didn't flinch at messy stories. In her office, I told the truth from beginning to end. No exaggeration, no hero edits. Rachel listened, then asked one question. Did you sign anything for her business? I said I signed a few forms early on because Leah said it was routine. Rachel didn't scold me. She simply nodded like she'd seen this pattern before. We need the loan documents, she said, and we need your credit report. I downloaded my report in the parking lot. My heart thudded when I saw it. A business loan listed under my file as personal guarantor. Not just a reference, a responsibility, a chain. I sat there, staring at the screen while cars rolled by, normal life continuing as if mine hadn't cracked open. Rachel told me something that made my skin go cold. If your name is on this, Daniel, and it defaults, they come after you. Leah wasn't just leaving. She was positioning me to pay for her future while she smeared my past. I thought about those late-night bank alerts. I thought about the certified letter she grabbed. I thought about being called insecure for asking questions. I felt sick, not because I didn't love her anymore, but because I had finally seen what she was capable of. We started requesting records the proper way. Rachel filed motions. We sent formal discovery requests. Leah's response was aggressive and smug. Her lawyer, a sharp man named Isaac Mercer, wrote that my requests were harassment and a continuation of controlling behavior. Leah doubled down in affidavits, painting herself as a hardworking entrepreneur victimized by an insecure husband. Naomi submitted a statement too, full of polite cruelty, calling me unstable and jealous of Leah's success. Meanwhile, Leah kept living in the house I couldn't enter. She posted pictures online from brunch spots in D.C., smiling wide, glass raised, while I slept on Eli's couch, trying not to wake him up when nightmares hit. At work, I returned and moved like a ghost. My coworkers didn't know the details, but they felt the change. One day in a break room, someone asked if I was okay. I lied and said, just tired. It was easier than saying, my wife is trying to destroy me politely. The first court hearing was humiliating. Leah arrived dressed like a magazine cover. Cream coat, gold earrings, hair sleek. Aaron walked behind her carrying a briefcase, like an assistant or bodyguard. Leah didn't look at me at first. When she finally did, her expression held nothing. Not guilt, not sadness, not even anger. Just a cold satisfaction, like she'd won simply by making me show up. In front of the judge, Leah spoke smoothly about emotional safety and boundaries. She said my constant questions made her feel trapped. She said I monitored her spending and accused her of cheating without proof. She said she changed the locks because she was afraid of me. I sat there stunned because the story was so clean it sounded believable. And because Leah's greatest talent had always been controlling the tone. She could be cruel in a whisper and still sound reasonable. Rachel kept me grounded. She reminded me we weren't there to win Leah back or prove I was lovable. We were there to protect my name, my finances, my future. Outside the courthouse, Leah passed me and said softly, "See, this is what happens when you can't control your insecurity." Her voice was sweet, almost playful. Aaron smirked. Naomi stared at me like I was a disappointment that needed to be corrected. None of them looked afraid. Weeks turned into months. Leah delayed producing documents. She claimed the business was private and irrelevant. Isaac Mercer filed objections to nearly everything we requested. It felt like trying to catch smoke with bare hands. But Rachel kept pushing piece by piece, motion by motion. She told me, "People who hide things rely on your exhaustion. We don't give them that." Some nights I sat in Eli's kitchen sorting my own receipts, building timelines, forcing myself to face details I wanted to ignore. The twist I didn't expect came from a bank representative named Miriam Cohen in Rockville. Miriam couldn't give me private details without authorization, but she could confirm one thing. The loan file included a modification signed after the date Leah locked me out. A modification that increased the line of credit. A modification that tied me tighter. I stared at Rachel when she told me. "I didn't sign anything after I got kicked out," I said. Rachel's jaw tightened. "Then someone signed for you." That night, I went back through my phone, looking at messages from that week. Leah had texted me, "I'm handling business paperwork. You don't need to worry." I replied, "Okay." My stomach turned. She had done it in plain sight, disguised as normal life. She didn't need my permission anymore. She had my trust, and she treated it like a blank check. We hired a forensic document examiner, Ezra Kaplan, to review the signature on the modification once we obtained it through court orders. Ezra was quiet, methodical, the kind of person who didn't overreact. When he compared the signature to known samples of mine, he circled small differences, pressure, slope, spacing, that couldn't be explained by stress or time. He told Rachel, "This appears simulated." That was a careful professional phrase, but it hit me like a blunt truth. My name had been forged. Leah still didn't flinch. In her next filing, she insisted I was confused and misremembering. She claimed I agreed to support the business and was now trying to punish her for leaving. Her lack of remorse was almost impressive, like a performance she never stepped out of. Naomi told anyone who would listen that Leah was finally free. Aaron posted a photo online from a rooftop bar in D.C. with the caption "New Chapters." I stopped looking after that. Every glance felt like swallowing glass. My lowest point wasn't court. It was a weekday morning when I drove past our old home on my way to a warehouse meeting. I saw my old garden hose on the side of the house, still coiled the way I left it. I watered those plants every summer. I had fixed that fence bore myself. And yet, I couldn't even step onto the porch without being accused of trespassing. I pulled into a parking lot, put my forehead against the steering wheel, and let myself cry silently so no one would see. Rachel's strategy shifted once we had proof of the modification, timing, and signature issues. She didn't threaten. She didn't posture. She focused on one moment where truth could cut through Leah's story. Testimony. "Leah wants to make your questions look like insecurity," Rachel said. So we let the court see what the questions were really about. Liability, fraud, and sworn statements. She asked me to practice speaking plainly without emotion. "Let the facts do the damage," she told me. The day of the evidentiary hearing, I wore a navy suit that didn't quite fit the way it used to. Weight loss from stress. Leah arrived bright and polished. Naomi sat behind her like a judge in the audience. Aaron sat 2 rows back, legs crossed, calm. Leah whispered to her attorney and smiled, like they were sharing a private joke. She looked at me once and raised her eyebrows, as if to say, "Still here?" I kept my eyes forward and held my folder like an anchor. Leah testified first. She spoke about freedom and boundaries and finally choosing herself. She described me as a man who interrogated her, who couldn't handle a successful wife, who punished her with suspicion. She said I supported her business early, then turned bitter when she outgrew me. She said I signed what I needed to sign. She said she never forged anything. She said the loan was mutual because we were married and that I was pretending ignorance to escape responsibility. When it was my turn, my mouth went dry. The judge asked me to answer clearly. Rachel nodded once, subtle encouragement. I didn't try to sound heroic. I didn't try to perform pain. I simply told the story of the locks, the trash bags, the porch humiliation, the motel, the sudden divorce filing. I explained that my questions were about letters, alerts, and documents. I said I asked privately first because I wanted to fix things quietly. Then I said, she told me questions were insecure. Rachel guided me to the key moment. She placed the loan modification document on the stand. She asked me if I recognized the signature. I looked at it and admitted it resembled mine, because whoever forged it tried to match it. Then Rachel asked, "Where were you on the date this was signed?" I answered, "Sleeping on my cousin's couch in Baltimore. Locked out of my home. I had no access to Leah's office or her bank." Leah's attorney objected. The judge allowed the line of questioning. Rachel's voice stayed calm. "Mr. Brooks," she asked, "did you authorize your wife or anyone else to sign your name?" I said, "No." Rachel asked, "Did your wife tell you she was modifying the loan?" I said, "No." Then Rachel looked toward Leah and asked the court to note the timeline. The locks changed on Friday, the modifications signed Monday, and my credit report showing my guarantor status tightening after I'd been removed from the home. The room felt different after that. Leah's smile thinned. Naomi's posture stiffened. Aaron stopped smirking. The judge asked Leah directly if she had any explanation for why a loan modification bearing my name occurred after I was locked out. Leah answered smoothly, "Daniel is confused. He's emotional. He's trying to punish me." The judge didn't react to her tone. He reacted to the document. "We deal in evidence here," he said, evenly, "not vibes." Then came the question that changed everything, the one that made Leah's favorite word collapse under its own weight. Rachel asked for permission for me to ask a direct question. The judge allowed it. I stood, looked at Leah, and said quietly, "If I'm so insecure for asking questions, Leah, answer this. Why does the bank file list my social security number as guarantor, and why was my name used on a modification after you locked me out?" Leah's face didn't crack into panic. It hardened. She shrugged slightly, like the truth bored her. "Because you agreed to support my dream," she said. "You're just mad I don't need you anymore. No remorse, no apology, no softness, just blame, repackaged as confidence." Rachel then introduced Miriam Cohen's bank verification and the forensic examiner's preliminary conclusions. The judge ordered an expanded review and warned Leah about the seriousness of sworn statements tied to financial documents. Leah rolled her eyes as if the warning was for someone else. The next month was a slow, grinding reveal of what Leah had built behind my back. Court-ordered discovery forced the business accounts open. A forensic accountant named Isaac Levin traced transfers that didn't match Leah's claims. Business funds used for personal expenses, payments routed in ways that suggested concealment, and a pattern of cash flow that made the business look healthier on paper than it actually was. Leah had been borrowing against future revenue that didn't exist yet, using my name as the safety net. Another twist surfaced when the house finances came into play. Leah had told the court she paid the mortgage alone and deserved exclusive rights. But the review showed multiple mortgage payments originated from accounts tied to the business line of credit, the same line tied to my guarantor status. In plain terms, Leah had been using debt attached to my identity to maintain the lifestyle she claimed I was jealous of. Naomi had known. Emails showed Naomi advising Leah to keep Daniel off the paperwork conversations. Aaron's role became clearer too. He wasn't just a partner. He was the person who introduced Leah to the lender and helped structure the loan package. Messages revealed Aaron coaching Leah on how to respond if I asked too many questions. Aaron wrote, "Call it insecurity. Works every time." Reading those words didn't make me feel triumphant. It made me feel hollow. People I had welcomed into my life had treated my trust like a weakness to exploit. Leah never softened, even when the evidence stacked up. In mediation, she didn't say, "I'm sorry." She said, "He's overreacting." She didn't ask how I slept on a couch for months. She complained that the legal process was slowing her momentum. She cared about her image, her access, her control. Naomi backed her fully, insisting Leah was protecting herself from a fragile man. Aaron stayed close, acting annoyed at the inconvenience, like accountability was an unfair surprise. Karma didn't come as a viral moment or a dramatic courtroom speech. It came with practical, irreversible consequences. The court treated the forged signature issue with seriousness, and the lender initiated its own investigation. Certain business accounts were frozen pending review. The judge addressed Leah's credibility in record, stating that sworn claims had contradicted verified documents. Leah's request for exclusive use of the home weakened as the court scrutinized how it had been maintained. The narrative Leah crafted, me as the problem, collapsed under paper trails she couldn't charm away. In the final settlement structure, Rachel fought for what mattered: my financial protection and a clean exit from Leah's trap. The agreement required the sale of the home under supervised terms, with debts and liabilities addressed transparently. The court also ordered provisions that protected my credit and clarified responsibility for business obligations tied to fraudulent actions. Leah didn't lose everything, but she lost what she wanted most: the ability to walk away clean while leaving me holding her risks. She left the courthouse stone-faced, still refusing remorse. My comeback was quiet, exactly the way I needed it to be. I didn't celebrate publicly. I didn't post. I didn't give anyone a speech. I moved to Columbia, Maryland, into a modest apartment with clean windows and silence that didn't feel threatening. I bought a reliable car, rebuilt my savings slowly, and took pride in small routines: grocery trips without dread, evenings without accusations, mornings without checking my phone like it might explode. Success, for me, became peace I didn't have to beg for. Eli kept me honest through the rebuilding. When I started blaming myself for trusting Leah, he reminded me, love isn't stupidity. It's a risk. She just used it wrong. Rachel checked in occasionally, not as a friend, but as someone who didn't want me to forget the lesson. Documentation matters, boundaries matter, and questions are not insecurity. They're self-respect. I kept a folder of my finalized paperwork, not to relieve pain, but to remind myself that reality can be proven even when someone tries to rewrite it. Sometimes I still remembered that porch, the trash bags, the locked door, the shadow behind the blinds. But the memory changed shape over time. It stopped being proof that I was disposable and became proof that I survived a cruelty designed to break me. Leah called me insecure for asking questions. She tried to train me into silence. But in the end, I asked one question in court, the only question that couldn't be mocked, and the truth answered back with the kind of karma that doesn't need a spotlight to be devastating. If you love stories where karma hits quietly but hits hard, subscribe and turn on notifications. Next episode, another betrayal that ends with paperwork, not revenge. The end.